I decided to take the STEPN challenge so you don't have to.
Oh,
Well, I don't know if STEPN actually has a challenge, but I'm a DGen and I wanted to challenge myself to make money before this isn't profitable anymore. So you gotta follow the trends. But sometimes when the trends get too big, that really does mean you might be a little late to that party. So fingers crossed, hopefully we're not too late to this party. My fear with the entire project is that I've been seeing a lot of FUD out there related to the project due to a number of things like the China ban, which has stopped them from using GPSs, and everyone in mainland China had to sell off their assets, which has caused a little bit of a price hiccup, causing GST and GMT to both kind of trend downward continuously every day, which is really hard to try and make a video as you're watching the prices continue to go down, but you want to get in and try and make some money before it goes to the bottom. So I decided not to wait for a bottom and just buy in when I thought it was pretty reasonable. I did see the floor price of an NFT on the Solana network go from 14 down to 6. So you tell me. The first step in my journey really was research. So I did like probably everybody else here is gonna do and headed on over to YouTube. There I was met with quite a lot of information out there, but I did end up settling on this guy here who I thought was pretty straightforward and did give you a lot of detailed information in the space. So after doing my research, I realized I have to decide which chain I wanna purchase it on because the NFTs are available on both Solana and Binance Chain. I decided to go with Solana because I really hadn't had much experience with Solana and I thought it was the perfect opportunity to have a jump into the network and really see how it works. Boy, was it bad. I was really met with a bunch of hiccups right off the bat. And honestly, I probably gave it too much of a hard time over on my TikTok where a lot of people said, hey, you're spreading FUD and maybe that it's gonna have a chance to fix itself. Solana is dumb, broken, and going to zero. Probably. No doubt. We're in a very beta phase when it comes to crypto as a general, but boy, that was really a bad experience when it comes to first getting into a network and how it was reacting. My first transfer took over 24 hours for it to happen. Now, even though I was met with a sign saying, hey, this network is slow, I couldn't have even imagined that amount of time for it to have taken. This wasn't the only hiccup when it came to Solana. I had a number of other times where it was either slow or transfers just didn't go through. So it really kind of put me a bad taste in my mouth to begin with, but I decided to push through anyway because again, the window was closing, time was running out, and I really wanted to see if I could make some money with STEPN. Step 2 in my journey was getting the app and actually signing in, which I realized was a bigger step than you would think because I need an activation code. And maybe many of you watching this video are probably aware that you need an activation code and may have even done a search yourself, but I'll tell you the easiest way and probably the only legitimate way to get an active code right now, and it was actually pretty simple. I didn't really think it would be that hard, and I didn't even go to YouTube first. I actually went over to the Discord first, and lo and behold, there's actually an entire channel there set up for giving out activation codes. But wait, there's more. They do give out the activation codes every 15 minutes. They give them out in packs of 5 or 6, I can't remember. But I was sitting there looking at the Discord and realized the next drop was about 2 minutes away. So, hey, I'll just wait and see if I can pick one up. I waited the 2 minutes, and when they popped up on the screen, I decided to type one somewhere further down the list, like number 3 or 4, just because that random ability would guarantee me a spot. And I was met with, that code has already been used. I thought, boy, that was fast. Maybe I just happened to pick another one. So I waited another 15 minutes and was again met with that code is used. I decided I'd give it one more try. I waited another 15 minutes and yep, sure enough, I was met with that code has already been used. Now a little bit frustrated, I decided, well, I gotta head over to another channel, maybe talk in the general chat and see if I can figure out what the hell's going on here. My first comment in there was like, hey, what's going on with the activation codes? Are these bots out here or what? Admittedly a little bit aggressive, but I felt it a little warranted seeing as the channel was sitting there and I just couldn't imagine how someone was typing any faster. Thankfully, some friendly enough members were able to fill me in on what's going on, just saying that there are a lot of people trying to use it. I believe that news is really out there about STEPN, so this is case in point for why there's a window that's gonna be closed on this profitability on this project. Honestly, when this many people are really paying attention to it, there's a good chance that it's just gonna get overhyped and all the money's gonna be dried up real soon. So the sooner the better was my thought. This friendly member did also inform me of the easiest way to go about getting STEPN activation codes. He said, head on over to Twitter, search for STEPN activation codes and sort by latest. Well, I figured, well, that seems pretty simple. I'll give it a try before I start ranting in here again. I head on over to Twitter, I put a search in for STEPN activation code and hit latest. The very first code I actually tried worked. I think this might have been, I gotta attribute some of this to probably luck, just maybe even being the time of day when I was actually doing a search for it. But I would also say that the number of China residents who were probably liquidating their accounts and sending out those activation codes for other happy users was possibly one of the reasons that there may have been an influx of brand new codes out there and easily available. Now, I can't speak to whether that's still very easy to do, but this would be the first place I'd probably try to go to. And honestly, a lot of the YouTube videos I've watched since have pointed to this being the main direction. I would stay clear of any of the scams, anyone asking you to do stuff for activation codes, and I really wouldn't try and get one of those generators. It's probably just going to lead to some NFTs getting stolen or some tokens getting stolen. So don't be that degen. I mean, I'm a degen, but like not that degen. So at this point, I'm moving on to step 3, and that really is choosing your sneaker. Now, when it came to choosing your sneaker, after doing a bunch of the research out there, I realized a lot of people out there were talking about how to pick the type of sneaker you're going to get. Now, when you're first meant to get a sneaker, you have to pick one of the 4 types: walker, jogger, runner, and trainer. I'm not sure if that's the order. I do know that walker and jogger are probably going to be a little cheaper and are on the lower end of the tier, but they're going to be more affordable and easy to attain. They also allow you to go slower speeds, but the difference between a walker and a jogger could be a big difference for someone who did say want to run ever. A lot of people out there were talking about how you want to make sure to try and pick the right one because you have to stay within a range. Now, the range for the jogger, which I ended up getting, goes between 4 and 10 kilometers per hour. Now, I don't know what that means, and I found a lot of people out there trying to explain what 4 to 10 kilometers an hour is, showing videos of people walking, and I figured there's got to be a better way to figure this out. So as I go and head over to the app and download it, taking my activation code, installing the activation code and open the app, I realized that you can actually take the app and go for a run, and it will tell you how fast you're going without a sneaker. Now, granted, you are moving for free and you are putting in a little bit of effort, but boy, I felt like that was going to pay dividends down the road because I really didn't want to get the wrong sneaker based on just like some guy on YouTube, right? So later that afternoon, I took a leisurely stroll around the block. Well, it wasn't quite leisurely. I did find out that if you kept a decent walking pace, you could meet the 4 kilometers per hour. And I imagine a decent low jog would probably be under the 10 kilometers an hour. So I did settle on jogger, which a lot of YouTubers out there do point to probably being the best for both worlds and most picked by a lot of people out there. But if you really are questioning it and you're not sure what you want to do, then head on over to the app and give it a try. See if you can feel like you can do it. Something that I would point to is that if you do end up finding a speed you like to run at, remember, you're going to want to try and do this every day. So if you think you can manage to do that, then go ahead and get it. Something I'd also point to is that you only get about 10 minutes worth of running time when it comes to your very first run. Now, as you level up the sneaker and as you get more, deep into the game, theoretically, you're supposed to be able to go for 30, 45 minutes, longer periods of time. But at first, you will only be able to basically do 10 minutes a day. So this is something to consider. Armed with this new information of how fast I actually wanted to go, I knew what kind of shoe I wanted to get, but I really needed to now start thinking about attributes. My obvious learning in step 1 gave me all the information I needed. Here's the general gist. Sockets don't really do much right now. Efficiency is the most important attribute. Luck and comfort don't really do anything in the game right now, but maybe one day will do, but you shouldn't focus on them. And resilience is the second most important thing you should focus on. Most people out there pointed to any of the sockets having anything to do with comfort to be avoided with, and really trying to find the highest base stat for efficiency you can while also maintaining as much of as resilience as you can, but don't really worry about it. So that's really actually what I ended up doing. I went for something that had a really high efficiency like 9, but I feel like if you got anything over 7, you could probably be pretty happy because most of the shoes on the marketplace that are in the base stat are all level 5 sneakers. And so when you're looking at level 5 sneakers, you actually get an availability to add 20 points to the base stats of your choice. Those added points are really going to push you up, but you want to make sure that you have the highest base stats on where you want to add on to because it just gives you that leg up. So again, efficiency being at 9 and knowing that I had 20 more points, I could throw all 20 there and make it 29 right off the bat. You got to keep an eye out for a lot of the sneakers out there though, because you'll see a little green bar out there, and that means the people have already spent those points from level 5. You probably want to avoid those because you'd rather have the decision up to you whether where you put them. But if they do meet your goals, then you're probably in a good spot. I doubt most of them have spent the coins in the proper place though, and they usually are just trying to hide the low base stats for efficiency. So take an eye out for that. So now that I knew what kind of sneaker I was looking for, now comes the hardest part of the entire journey, and that is actually finding the sneaker you're looking for. And the reason I say this is because the marketplace is kind of frustrating because it doesn't have like a swipe function where you can easily just cycle through them or just see all the base stats at a glance. You actually have to enter into the sneaker to take a look at it, and then you have to press the back button and then scroll down and then enter into it and then press the back button. So it's this very monotonous process of which you have to dedicate a little bit of time if you actually want to put any credence into finding one that you actually want. The majority out there are complete junk right now, and they have very little efficiency. A lot of people trying to boost those stats up there and get you to buy theirs. But I would say a little bit of time into it, you can eventually come into it after about 15-20 minutes worth of search time. I ended up taking quite a bit of time on this, and I'm not sure whether or not it's just luck, but you may have a different reaction. I ended up sitting there for probably about 2 hours before I picked the one. I did see many hopefuls, and I took a screenshot of them trying to remember the number so I could find them again. But after a certain period of time, they start to cycle. Some get sold off. So if you find one you're pretty happy with, there's a point where you're probably just going to want to pull the trigger. So this is what I did. I ended up finding something I was pretty happy with, and I ended up pulling the trigger. Now, I did go against some of the suggestions from people out there, the influencers and YouTubers who are using the platform, in thinking that I think eventually comfort will have a bigger place to play. I did do a video talking about the tokenomics of the entire platform, and GST really doesn't have a long-term future, and GMT will end up being the only token of value in this if it does continue into the future. So I didn't really think about comfort that much. I did allow my sneaker to have a few sockets that had comfort involved, but I did still manage to find one with efficiency that was 9. So that was my main goal, and I'm pretty happy with it. Purchasing's pretty simple. Just click confirm, and then you have to transfer some money from your wallet into your spending balance, and Bob's your uncle. You've got a sneaker. You would think at this point I'd be able to go outside and go for a run, but unfortunately you are not. There is a cooldown period after purchasing a sneaker that delays you from going for your first run. Well, it really has to do with the energy buildup. So when you buy a sneaker, the energy is only at like 0 or 0.5. I can't remember what it was, but it's very low. And basically you can get up to 2 energy every 24 hours when you're on level 5. Now, as you go up in higher levels, that will increase the amount of energy you have. And the energy is directly related to how long you can run. This has to do with the 10 minutes worth of running time that you're really going to be doing at the beginning. And as you start to level the sneaker up, you will be getting more energy, which allows you to go for longer runs during the day. Every 6 hours, it increases by 25%. So noting, even as you increase your levels and increase your energy, you don't have to wait a longer period of time. It still ends up being sort of the cap is 24 hours. So that's pretty much where my journey was for the next 24 hours. Unfortunately, because I picked up my NFT later in the evening, I had to wait 24 hours to a further later in the evening period where I didn't really want to go for a run. So it made it a little bit cumbersome, but I also could decide to go for an earlier run and only use 1.5 energy if I wanted to have an afternoon run. It was close enough to about 6 p.m. where I still could go for that run. So I decided to wait for the full energy to see what the full experience was all about. And that's pretty much where I am making this video. But don't worry, I'm going to wrap up on the experience of the first run. Bam. And like that, I'm back with the power of editing so soon. And here are my thoughts on my very first run. The first thing I would say is that I would probably try to take your run, regardless of how much energy you have, your very first one anyway, when you feel like it. Don't wait necessarily till you have full energy if that means it's after 6, because like me, I waited till after I'd had dinner, and it's really not the play. Now, if you're going for a brisk walk, it's not such a bad thing, and that might be a good way to get some of those digestive juices going, but unfortunately, I did try to do a little bit of a slow jog, which really did not sit well with me later on in the evening. So I would say do whatever works for you, and don't worry about accumulating the energy, because the energy does continue to accumulate regardless of when you go for a trip. So even if you do go for a trip and it has 1.5 energy and you're missing that extra 0.5, that 0.5 will still come in at the same rate. So that means that you'll just go for an early run, and then when you wake up that next morning, you've just staggered it to that new period, if that kind of makes sense. But anyway, I digress about my belly. The run is actually pretty simple. And now that you have a shoe inside of your wallet or your stable, I guess, the app automatically assigns it to be the one to run. And the start button is really all you have to do. Do obviously make sure you press the play button. This is something that I noted a lot of people talking about in Discord and Reddit, was that they might have accidentally not pressed the play button, or they might have accidentally not stopped it and continued to wear down the sneaker as time went on. This is something to specifically note too. At the end of your run, you really want to make sure that you only run for the amount of energy that you're using and then stop it so you don't put any more wear and tear on your shoe. This is something they don't really make very clear, and something I learned, I wouldn't say the hard way, but I did learn it through the Discords and the Reddit, which is probably the much better way if you'd agree. Again, the process was actually pretty simple. Just kind of press the play, and I did hold the app open for the first like 10 minutes because it took a while for the first pieces of GST to come through. They don't just start accumulating as you move. They kind of come in like batches every few minutes. Like you'll get a chunk and it'll be like, you'll hear a whooshing sound in your headphones that lets you know you're getting your accumulation, and it will kind of tick up with like 1 or 2 coins. At very first, you're not really sure you're getting anything. Like I said, I had my app open the whole time while I was walking, just kind of glancing at it to make sure it was still working, because I was a little unsure at first. I also did a little bit of a test later on to see whether I could close it, listen to music, and yes, it does still keep accruing. You don't have to keep it open at all. Also, I would note that using the Jogger series, after trying it, I realized that the first time I had done my test that I talked about earlier in this video, where I actually went for a test walk, I was focused so heavily on the walking speed that I didn't really think about the jogging speed. And what ended up happening is I actually tried to go for a jog, and it's really an uncomfortable speed for me. The jog is just too slow, and it might have been due to the food, but it really wasn't the right cadence for me, if you know what I mean. I'd probably prefer to run, but here's the thing. I'm thinking that if I have to do this every single day, there's realistically going to be days I don't want to deal with it. So I'd rather be forced to do a casual walk for 10 minutes into 45 minutes over time, as opposed to like a slow jog or perhaps even a fast jog, right? I don't necessarily want to run every single day. It's a little hard on the knees if you ask me. So I feel like the walking is probably a better page. And as far as the energy goes, yes, to energy is roughly about 10 minutes. It didn't take me long. I kind of found this perfect route around the block that took me almost exactly back to home. And I did manage to film a little bit of myself trying to do that YouTuber thing outside, but boy, a little bashful to actually pull up the screen and talk to the camera because I didn't want to look like a complete nut out in public, even though there was nobody around. It's still very, it makes you very self-conscious, I'm not gonna lie, but I did manage to find a couple trees to post up and fake some of this B-roll so it looks like you're seeing me, but obviously I had to walk back and forth and make these shots a couple times. So enjoy the B-roll for what it is, just me walking up the block. Let's talk about the most important part. How much did I actually earn for this casual little walk? Well, it ended up being about 10 GST. It was a little under, about 9 and change. And you know, that's not really bad. Even if you were to consider at the time I'm making this, it was worth about $1. So 10 bucks to walk around the block. Hey, you know, getting a little bit of exercise, 10 bucks for it, not too bad. Really far from my ROI is how much I paid to get in. The NFT I think I spot was like 300 bucks or 3 something. So I got a little bit of a ways to go, but definitely not bad. But here's the caveat. You have to spend a lot of that GST in order to play the next day. Let me explain. There's 2 things you're really gonna do at the end of each run. You're gonna have a repair cost and you're gonna also have a leveling up cost. Apparently you're gonna be able to level up every day. There's theoretically enough coins that you'll get from each run that will allow you to level up every day or very regularly at very least. What I've been told is that you want to repair your shoes before you level up because as you level up, it's gonna get more expensive. So this is what I did. These were the final costs. As I did a repair, it actually cost 2 and change. So like 2.6, 2.5, I can't remember the exact number, but there you go. I already lost $2. And then leveling up to level 6 was actually 6 GST. So I lost another $6. I ended up, my final balance was 49 cents or 49 GST, 0.49 GST. Again, I'm using the analogy of $1, so 49 cents for walking around the block. Now, I have to imagine that this will ramp up over time and become more attainable, but yeah, safe to say, I don't know if I'd say disappointed, but it's definitely not what I was expecting, certainly. Now, I'm obviously giving it a bit of a hard time, and I think really the goal here is to level up as soon as possible, hence why you're leveling up every day. It's kind of like a ramp up, and once you get to having multiple sneakers and multiple levels higher up, you're gonna be earning GST at a much higher rate. So that's the real incentive, is to stick around and actually use this. So I just wanted to give everyone that like heads up that right off the bat, you're not gonna be rolling in the dough. The reality is that almost cost me money to go around the block, honestly. It was, my time is probably worth more than 50 cents. So 10, 15 minutes to kind of figure the whole thing out and then feeling a little uncomfortable after dinner. Yeah, no, definitely wasn't the play. Yeah, but I'm kind of in this for the long haul. At this point, I'm not even close to making my money back. So I've definitely got to keep trying it until something gives. So let me think, what are my final thoughts on the entire situation? Well, obviously, it's not the moneymaker off the bat that most people are making it out to be. They obviously want to reward people for staying around on the platform and utilizing it long term so they get all that data they need to actually make the system better. So yes, I'm obviously going to be sticking around because I'm not even close to getting ROI back on my NFT purchase. It was like 300, 360, somewhere in there. And yes, the NFTs are continuing to drop. So that's kind of scary. Not to mention GST and GMT have been tanking at an exponential rate, which is also getting a little worrying. But hey, I'm in it for the long haul. I got to see if I can make my money back somehow. Flipping the NFT isn't much of an option. I guess I got to walk my way out of this one. But I don't know. I've only done one run. I'm going to check it out over the next week or two and probably make another video so I can update, see what I'm making then, see if it's still making sense. So stay tuned if that's something you're into. And I hope this video wasn't too candid for you. I wanted to make it more of a conversational style to kind of really go through the experience because I felt like a lot of the YouTube videos out there were really just talking exactly the details on it. And yes, those are very important. Go check those videos out for it. That guy I pointed to, they got all the information you're probably looking for. There's a lot to comb through and they do make those videos pretty long. So I just wanted to make this more of an actual experience so you got the full gist of what's gonna happen. Hopefully it was valuable to you, but let me know. I wanna know on your side what it is you're planning on doing. Are you gonna get into STEPN? Has this enticed you? Has it discouraged you? What do you think about the whole process? Are you scared about that price action? I know I am. But anyway, leave a comment down below. This is also the point where if you got any value or entertainment out of this video, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, they really do help the channel and I appreciate it. Also remember guys, none of this is financial advice and obviously this was more of a story time. So I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you in the next video.